They called her Spoon Girl. Some said it openly, others whispered it when she passed by with her head down, apron tied tight over a faded military uniform that never quite fit her right. In a base where respect was earned through sweat, scars, and kill counts, Maya Collins was the woman who stirred soup while others trained to shoot. She had enlisted like everyone else, passed the written tests, survived the physicals, but fate, or paperwork, had pushed her into the base kitchen. And in this place, that meant one thing. You're not real military. The mess hall was loud that morning. Metal trays slammed down, boots scraped concrete. The smell of eggs, oil, and burned toast filled the air as Maya moved between stoves, her hands fast, precise, trained by years of necessity rather than praise. "Hey cook," a soldier called out, leaning against the counter with a grin. "You ever even fired a real gun?" Laughter followed. Maya didn't answer. She never did. She slid another tray across the counter and wiped her hands on her apron. Her jaw tightened, but her eyes stayed calm. Inside, something burned quietly, controlled, waiting. What they didn't know was that Maya had grown up in a house where silence meant survival. Her father had been a marksman before alcohol ruined him. By age 12, she could disassemble a rifle blindfolded. By 16, she could hit a bottle from 200 meters. But life didn't care about skill. It cared about labels. So here she was, the cook. The base sat in a dry valley surrounded by jagged hills. Officially, it was secure. Unofficially, everyone knew the region was heating up. Intelligence reports mentioned increased enemy movement. Patrols doubled. Night watches grew tense. Still, routines didn't change. Soldiers trained, officers planned, and Maya cooked. That afternoon, she stood alone in the pantry, inventory clipboard in hand, when she felt it. A vibration, not loud, not obvious, but wrong. The lights flickered. Then came the sound that froze her blood. An explosion. The ground shook violently. Shelves rattled. Cans toppled and rolled. Somewhere outside, sirens screamed to life. "Incoming," someone shouted. Another blast thundered closer. Maya dropped the clipboard and ran. The base erupted into chaos. Gunfire cracked through the air. Smoke rose beyond the barracks. The radio system blared overlapping commands, half of them drowned by panic. She sprinted past wounded soldiers, past officers yelling into dead radios, past bodies she refused to look at. The base was being breached. And the perimeter, supposedly impenetrable, was already failing. Maya ducked behind a transport vehicle as bullets tore through the air. Her heart hammered, but her hands were steady. She scanned the ground instinctively, eyes sharp, calculating angles, cover, movement. Then she saw it, a fallen rifle. Its owner lay motionless beside it. For half a second, she hesitated. She was a cook. That's what they said. That's what the base records said. That's what everyone believed. Another explosion shook the ground, closer this time. Screams echoed from the east gate. Maya grabbed the rifle. The metal felt familiar in her hands, like shaking hands with an old friend. She checked the magazine, chambered around. Her breath slowed. The noise faded. Training took over. She moved. Enemy fighters poured through a breach near the outer wall. They were fast, coordinated, ruthless. The soldiers assigned there were overwhelmed, pinned down behind shattered concrete and burning vehicles. Then shots rang out, clean, precise. One enemy dropped, then another. A third fell before he could even turn. The soldiers looked around in confusion. "Where the hell is that coming from?" One shouted. From behind a supply truck, Maya fired again. She adjusted her stance, compensating for recoil, wind, elevation. Her eyes were cold now, focused, calculating. She wasn't angry. She was efficient. An enemy sniper tried to flank. She spotted the glint of a scope and fired first. Hit. The tide slowed. Moments later, reinforcements arrived and pushed forward, reclaiming ground inch by inch. By the time the breach was sealed, bodies littered the valley floor, enemy and ally alike. Silence followed, heavy and unreal. Smoke drifted through the air. Maya lowered the rifle. Her arms trembled, not from fear, but from the weight of what she'd done. A captain approached her slowly, eyes wide. Who are you?" he asked. She wiped dirt from her face and stood straight. "Maya Collins," she said quietly. "Kitchen unit." The captain stared at her, then at the rifle, then at the fallen enemies lying impossibly far from her position. No one laughed. No one spoke. Word spread fast. The cook had picked up a rifle. And the base still stood because of it. That night, as emergency lights hummed and medics worked without rest, Maya sat alone outside the mess hall steps, rifle resting across her knees. A young soldier approached hesitantly. "Ma'am," he said, voice shaky. "You saved my squad today." She nodded once. He swallowed. "I'm sorry, for before." Maya looked out toward the dark hills. "So am I," she said, not unkindly. Above them, the stars burned cold and distant. And somewhere in the silence, a new story began. A story no one would ever dare mock again. Morning came slowly, like the base itself was afraid to wake up. Smoke still hung low over the valley. Burned vehicles stood like skeletons near the perimeter. The smell of metal, ash, and dried blood mixed with the desert air. Soldiers moved quietly now, less joking, less shouting. Every step felt heavier than the day before. Maya Collins stood back in the kitchen. Same apron, same cracked tiles, same dented pots, but nothing was the same. Whispers followed her movements. "That's her. She took out 5, maybe more. They say she didn't miss once." Maya ignored it all. She chopped vegetables with steady hands, though her arms still ached from recoil and adrenaline. The rifle leaned against the wall near the door. No one had told her to return it. No one dared. A colonel entered the mess hall. Conversations died instantly. Colonel Harris was a legend, decorated, feared, respected. A man who had seen wars end and begin again. His boots echoed as he walked straight toward the kitchen. Maya kept working. "Collins," he said. She stopped, turned, stood at attention. "Yes, sir." Harris studied her face for a long moment. Not the way officers usually looked at subordinates, but the way soldiers looked at equals. "You ever receive combat training?" "Yes, sir." "Officially?" "No, sir." Another pause. "You know how many men I lost yesterday?" Maya swallowed. "Yes, sir." "You know how many you saved?" She didn't answer. Harris exhaled slowly. "Effective immediately, you're reassigned." Her heart skipped. "To what unit, sir?" Harris' lips twitched. Not quite a smile. "Anywhere you want to be useful." By noon, Maya stood on the training field. No apron, no kitchen, just a rifle strapped across her chest and eyes watching her every move. The same soldiers who had mocked her now stood beside her in formation. Some avoided her gaze, others watched with open curiosity. A few with respect, one or two with quiet shame. Training began. Maya didn't show off. She didn't boast. She simply performed. Every drill, every target, every tactical scenario, perfect. When the instructor demonstrated room clearing, Maya corrected his stance, politely. When the squad struggled with long-range accuracy, she adjusted wind calculations in seconds. When a recruit panicked under simulated fire, she grounded him with a calm voice and clear commands. The base changed its rhythm around her. People stopped calling her Cook. They started calling her Corporal Collins. 2 weeks later, intelligence confirmed what everyone feared. The breach had been a test. A larger attack was coming. This time, the enemy wanted the base erased. Night fell heavy and silent. Too silent. Maya sat on overwatch near the eastern ridge, scope trained on the valley below. Beside her lay Sergeant Lewis, the same man who once laughed loudest in the mess hall. "Never thought I'd say this," he muttered, "but I'm glad you're here." Maya didn't look away from the scope. "Me too." Movement. Her body tensed instantly. "Contact," she whispered. Seconds later, the valley exploded into motion. Enemy units surged from the darkness, dozens, maybe more. Mortars fired. Tracers lit the sky. Sirens wailed again, but this time there was no panic. Only precision. Maya fired. Shot after shot. Command after command. She moved like she had always belonged there, between chaos and control. When communications failed, she relayed positions by hand signals. When an officer went down, she took over without hesitation. The enemy pushed hard. Too hard. They broke through the north wall. Close combat. Maya sprinted toward the breach, bullets snapping past her ears. Inside the smoke, everything became instinct, angles, shadows, timing. She disarmed one attacker, dropped another, pulled a wounded soldier to safety with one arm while firing with the other. Pain flared in her shoulder. She ignored it. The fight lasted hours. By dawn, the valley was quiet again. This time, the base stood unbroken. Maya collapsed against the wall as medics rushed toward her. Blood soaked her sleeve, but she waved them off until every soldier around her was checked first. Colonel Harris approached once more. "You held the line," he said quietly. Maya finally allowed herself to sit. "I did my job, sir." Harris nodded. "You did more than that." Later that day, the entire base gathered. Formations tight. Flags still standing. Harris stepped forward. Some soldiers are born on the battlefield, he said. Others are forged there. His eyes found Maya. Today, we recognize one of our own, not for what she was assigned, but for who she chose to be. He pinned the medal himself. Thunderous applause followed, raw, emotional, earned. Maya stood tall, eyes shining but steady. She didn't smile. She didn't cry. She simply accepted it. That evening, she returned to the mess hall, not to cook, but to eat. A young recruit approached shyly. "Ma'am," he said, "how did you know you could do it?" Maya considered the question. "I didn't," she replied. "I just refused to believe what others decided for me." Outside, the sun dipped below the hills. The base was safe. The valley was quiet, and the story of the cook who picked up a rifle had already begun spreading beyond the walls. Not as a joke, but as a legacy.